Say. No.
There it is.
Let's hear it.
Well, let's hear it.
Talk to us. Uh-oh.
Beadle and Decker, taking on sports talk like no one else. Michelle Beadle,
I'm just helping. I'm helping America one by one.
Cody Decker.
I 100% believe in revenge. Revenge is a great thing.
Back to the sports.
Back and ready for more.
Every time I tune them out, they pull me back in.
It's Beadle and Decker. Here's Michelle and Cody.
Hello, everyone. It is a beautiful, beautiful Friday here in Southern California. That being said, it's cold as hell here in Southern California. And yes, this is Beadle and Decker. No Michelle Beadle today. I'm Cody Decker. And joining me today for the second time this week, third time overall, because the dude's just a flat out rock star over there in New York City. He's a Philly icon. He's now a New York icon. You can check him out on the Craig Carton Show over there on Sportsnet. Let's get our guy, the one and only Tyrone Johnson. What is up, Tyrone? How is your week been, man?
Fantastic. Happy Friday to you. Happy Friday to everybody out there. 3 o'clock Eastern time, noon Pacific time on a Friday. There's no other place I'd rather be.
Absolutely, and I'm thrilled to have you. We got a lot to talk about. Missed you yesterday. We had Tim Murray over at VSiN on yesterday, and listen, we had a very interesting day. It got heated, not between he and I, just heated talking about all of the shit surrounding Major League Baseball this week. You and me were here on Tuesday. We had a phenomenal fucking time talking about it. We were getting kind of into the nitty gritty of it all, and we were breaking down, and I've done this like 3 times this week. I did it with Michelle the next day, breaking down all the things that Tony Clark was being accused of while being axed from being the MLBPA's head. But here's the thing. The one thing you and I scoffed at in the 3 allegations mostly was nepotism. But bro, curious question.
Yeah.
I know you are a good dog and you are not somebody that strays from the porch. That's not my question. But if you weren't said good dog and you were someone that were to stray from said porch, would you ever stray to your fucking sister-in-law? What a fucking nightmare that sounds like.
No, absolutely not. And the other part is, like, so what was going around was when they said sister-in-law, it was about whether or not it'd be his brother's wife or his wife's sister, because there's only 2 options it could be. And this is the meaner one because there's layers to this. This is a 50-year-old woman, right? So now, when you cheat on your spouse, and I don't do that, but I know that if you're cheating on your spouse, your wife would likely go to her sister as part of her support system. So it's bad enough he's cheating. We all agree that that's wrong. Now you're cheating with her, even if they're not that close. In that situation, that's your support system. But let's say somehow they're not close. Their parents are still alive. So now think about this for Thanksgiving and Christmas and every holiday going forward. Okay, I know you girls don't get along, but you can come over for Christmas, Thanksgiving, weekends, 4th of July, barbecue, etc. Now, because of what he did, not only did he destroy his wife, he also destroyed her support system. And what if there's grandkids involved? So now, if the mom takes a side, then now you can't see the grandkids for one daughter. And the layers of this is so bad. Like, in my opinion, Tony Clark can't be in charge of a mini mart, let alone the Players Association. At its core, he's a very bad guy.
Dude, and you know my experience with him. I told you exactly my experience with him, and I have never really been very big on Tony Clark as the head of the Players Association. Not because he's not intelligent and not capable, because, dude, I gave you my experience. It made me believe for 1 second I could never trust this man, and lo and behold, neither can his wife or siblings, I guess. Holy shit, dude, what are you doing? But on better news, actual baseball is actually being played right now. I'm currently watching a game between the Baltimore Orioles and New York Yankees. Pete Alonso getting himself a standing ovation. And then the next game that I'm really excited to watch, obviously over in Peoria, my old spring training complex, you got the Padres taking on the Mariners, 2 teams I have my eye on big time this year. The Padres, by the way, I know I've talked about the teams that I'm really big on, and I know I'm an ex-Padre. Hell, the Padre jersey right there that I made my major league debut in. I root for the Padres. It's hard not to root for the Padres for me. That being said, a little quiet of an offseason, not exactly your Preller-ish offseason because of the turmoil going on with ownership. But, dude, just in the last couple of days going into spring training, they get their hands on a Nick Castellanos, which could be a very nice little piece, especially for the price they got him at. And they also bring in Walker Buehler. And I understand that Walker Buehler might not be Cy Young caliber Dodger Walker Buehler, but we saw what he did in the World Series 2 years ago for the Dodgers. If he can get back to a semblance of himself, and they got Joe Musgrove coming back this season, dude, don't sleep on the San Diego Padres again. That team still got themselves some X. They got Machado. They got Cronenworth. And, some guy named Fernando Tatis Jr. The Padres aren't going anywhere. They are a playoff team.
They're a really good team. My question really with them is always, because they're right there with the Dodgers, what can they do in the postseason? Like, unfortunately, and I hate that in spring training, but I can tell you adding Nick Castellanos on its own will not help them in the postseason.
No, not
because I've seen him with the Phillies, and he doesn't help them in the postseason. But he will help them at times in the regular season. And despite him opening a beer because he got taken out of a game for a defensive replacement, and flat out, I found out also with him, and it might fit in there, but it takes a certain culture. So let's say the team would lose to the Braves or the Mets 7-0, but he went 3 for 4. He'd party at his locker.
Okay, that's that. Listen. There are ups and downs on this. I get you don't want to be a sad sack because you had a shit game and you're the greatest thing in the world when you have a great game. I've been around teammates like that. Yes, it can be a tired act. I have heard, but I've also heard conflicting stories on what kind of teammate the cat has been from different guys. Some dudes love him, some dudes hate him. I do admit though, the whole drinking in the clubhouse thing. Dude, if you don't think everybody's drinking in that clubhouse, especially when they're taken out of a game, I got so many bridges to sell people.
Well, it's only a big deal because it was a stated rule. It was one of those things where it's like, you don't, and that came from the team, not just the manager. Like, when you come out, engage, back your teammates, still be on the steps, be out there. Like, if you got to go take a walk, but come back and you support your guys. So it was like he was good at times. He was terrible at times. But getting to the overarching point, baseball's back. I'm excited about it. Yeah. I just found out we're getting 5 to 12 inches of snow up here Sunday and Monday. I wish I was down in Florida watching my Phillies or watching the Astros in Kissimmee. Or I'm trying to think of some of the places I would always go in years past. But it's exciting to have it back. And I have to savor it because I don't think there's going to be any spring training this time next year.
I hate to say that I think you're right, and we are definitely going to get into that in just a moment here. But before we get into that, other things you're looking forward to? I mean, listen, I'd be remiss not to bring up your Phillies because, dude, this is a team that I hate to say this out loud because I've wanted the Phillies to be in and win a World Series like every year for the last 5 years. And I'm not even a Philly fan or a Philly guy. It's just I find that team exciting. When Bryce Harper hit that home run, 3 years ago was it? That's actually caused an earthquake on the Richter scale from how loud that stadium got.
Yes.
I was like, dude, this team, I never want them to go away. But they just could never get over that final hump for whatever reason it may be. And I worry, dude. I really, really worry that time might be up for this team because we're not going to pretend they're not getting older, dude.
No, they are. And actually, I have to ask you a question that I know I can ask you, but it's an uncomfortable question. One of the thoughts were, and that's part of the reason why Castellanos is gone, was the team was too comfortable and too much of the same. And when people read between the lines of what was said, what they were basically saying was the culture of the team was basically too white. And this is why I have to ask you this question. In that we know baseball is an international game. And you look at the Dodgers and you'll have your Latin players, you absolutely have your white players, and you have your black players all on the team and your Asian players, and they all make it work, and they're the juggernaut and they're the favorites once again. In the Phillies case, what has come out was when they would have the off days and they would have a get-together, perhaps only the white players would be invited. And the Latin players, like Ranger Suarez, who's now with the Red Sox, would not be.
Mhm.
And I don't think it was malicious. It was one of
Not
those
at
things
all.
that just happened in the culture. And part of the reason why they changed it up, it wasn't changed for change's sake. It was time for Castellanos to go due to a lot of issues. At this point, it was just time. Sometimes
Mhm.
things run its course. But to
You're right.
replace him with a Latin player who is similar to him, but perhaps more coachable and intentionally different. So I want to ask you about this because I'm sure this applies to other teams, but this is the one I'm closest to.
No, it's interesting.
Can the culture like that? Yeah, can clubhouse culture get maybe too comfortable and too cliquish, and that keeps basically people from holding each other accountable?
I'm glad you say that. And the answer is yes, it absolutely can happen. Now, every clubhouse has cliques. I will tell you that. I've been in
Of course.
tons of clubhouses. And I will tell you, I'll get to my point on weirdly what was actually the worst clubhouse I was ever in. And I will actually go as far as say it was the most diverse clubhouse I've ever been in, but it wasn't because of the diversity. I can't stress that enough. It was just, I think it was just a culmination of egos and timing that just didn't work. But I played on a team when I was drafted. I was with the San Diego Padres. I was drafted in 2009. And after I set multiple records in the AZL. That's right. I did that. A big dig me kind of quote. Won an MVP over Mike Trout. I remind him every time I see him. And then don't worry, he went on being the greatest player who ever lived after he lost one award to me. And he's like, this shit can't happen again. And he's done that. But after I was on that team in the AZL, I was moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I joined a team that had already been a juggernaut. Everyone knew they were going to win the Midwest League. They were a powerhouse full of hot prospects. But I will tell you, all of those hot prospects were a bunch of white dudes. It was a guy named Jaff Decker, who was a high school phenom. It was a guy named Blake Takoti, who was a star at Miami. It was a guy named Daniel Robertson, who was a star at Oregon State. You add me, I was a star at UCLA. By the way, these are just a bunch of white dudes. And then you add a couple other guys. It was a very predominantly white core of like star players that are joining together in the minor leagues that are kind of going up the ranks together. So we won minor league team of the year that year. The next year we got knocked out in the championship game, but we were runner-ups for minor league player team of the year that second year. And then the following year in AA, San Antonio, we won another title. We were minor league team of the year that year. Then we go to 2013. Now, keep in mind, this is a team and a core group of guys that have been going together, and the core group kind of sticks together each one of these levels. We get to AAA. We're always partying together. We're always out together. We also had a Latin contingent in each one of these teams, but it was very cliquish, and it wasn't like we were separating it. It was just kind of one of those things of what it was almost like people were just gravitating with what they were used to because there was a lot of dudes out of college, and I think it was just one of those things. Then that AAA team happened. We go to AAA together, and I'm telling you, careers fall to pieces. The team dynamics fall to pieces. We went from minor league team of the year like 3 years in a row to being like the worst team in the PCL. It was a really weird thing to happen. And it was because of that comfortability. Guys were just moving up because the team was winning and they weren't really putting up numbers. And they would get a cup of coffee and they would just stink it up in the big leagues for the short term they had there because the Padres didn't love calling up young guys and keeping them there. And then cut to a couple years later, the whole group is completely disbanded and the Padres kind of revamped their entire organization. And then I get to the big leagues with the team, and I will tell you that was the most diverse team I ever had. We had Matt Kemp, we had BJ Upton, we had Justin Upton, we had Josh Johnson. It was a very dynamic and diverse mix. The problem it wasn't that diverse mix. In fact, I think that should have been heavily embraced, and I think the Padres really have over the years. Look at that team right now. A lot of Latin players, a lot of American players. It's just a good mix, and you see that throughout Major League Baseball. I think the team that I was on was just toxic because at that point, Matt Kemp was discarded from the Dodgers within his own division. BJ Upton was kind of discarded by the Braves at the time. Justin was the guy that was about to sign the big deal. It was a team that legitimately hated each other. And I heard Matt Kemp's like completely turned it around when he went over to Atlanta after the fact. I think he was just really unhappy when he was down in San Diego. So I give him a lot of leeway on that. But dude, it is fascinating how clubhouse dynamics work. Sometimes there are racial elements. I had a teammate that called one of our black teammates an N-word at a party, and like everybody kind of attacked that player. Like it was
Right.
These things are very real within the sports. Like the Latin players at the time, a lot of Dominican players, they'd click together, and there was
Right.
sometimes a friction in that. Which, looking back, how was there ever a friction in that? I think it's honestly because minor league baseball, particularly, is very adversarial as you're going up, because as much as you want to look at every other team as your competition, it's also set up in a way to look at your teammates as competition. And so when you're looking at your teammates as competition, trying to get up the ranks and get up to those 26 spots, of which those guys ain't going anywhere either, dude, it just leads to a lot of weird, bad blood. I look back at a lot of relationships that I should have had great relationships with guys. Like I had this one guy, Rico Noel, an amazing outfielder. I think we got into multiple arguments, and I look back, I don't even know what the fuck they were all about. Rico was talented. We didn't even play the same position. We just disagreed in some town, and now we look back, I'm like, did we hate each other? Like, no, I liked Rico Noel.
See, and I think what it came down to, just so people tuned it in, when I said it appeared to be too white, what was meant was, it was just the white guys were all together.
No, you're
and
right.
The Latin guys in this, I'm talking about the Phillies clubhouse in particular, had a little bit of a different flavor and flair, and they weren't complacent. It was the appearance, at least, that they were hungrier because they hadn't got their money yet. Ranger Suarez just got his big contract with the Red Sox, so he hadn't been paid yet. So when things are like that, the thought was, you know what, when push came to shove in those tough moments, because they were, I will say, the talk was they were the most together group ever. But when the big moments came, they would always shrink. Why? Because no one's going to yell at somebody about that crap at bat, because they were too close. And the thinking is now, and this is why I have some hope for my Phillies. With the dynamic broken up, perhaps around the margins, when a guy's maybe, hey, we know what you're supposed to be doing. That was a terrible at bat. That was a piece of shit at bat. Someone will actually be willing to say it, because the friend group got broken up a little bit. And that's the part that I think is important. And if you're a Phillies fan like me, that's something to watch. If the Phillies get off to a hot start, I don't think they're going to rest on their laurels this year the way they have in the past few years, where they love on one another, but they don't hold each other necessarily accountable. And Castellanos basically had to go to create that accountability.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting team. They're a very fascinating team to watch this year. Obviously, a lot of splashy moves from the Mets, but I still look at this Phillies team. I mean, Bryce Harper's got a chip on his back right now. Not exactly, if you're in the NL East, you don't want fucking Bryce Harper, of all people, having a chip on his back. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the season he can put together. I want to see if he's going to make Dave Dombrowski look like an absolute moron or genius for what he said. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing with Bryce, though. He shouldn't have said it. I think what he meant was, the year they went to the World Series and he hits the home run against the Padres and all that, the one you referenced.
The home run of his life. What a call.
Right.
It was a great call.
Great call. Incredible. I'm out. It's ridiculous when that happens. I think, like, they weren't winning because of Bryce last year. They weren't losing because of Bryce either. But there was a month, like I remember when my 08 team, watching the Phillies, there was a month literally happened where Ryan Howard had you for a month, Utley had you for a month, Jimmy Rollins had you for a month. And if they all were hot together, forget about it. And that's what eventually happened. That month where Harper carried you never really happened last year. And that's the part that I think he was referring to. I think he articulated it very poorly.
I agree. And God, thanks for reminding me of that fucking 08 Phillies team. That team was just, you didn't even mention Utley, and Utley is like that's how good that team was. Jimmy Rollins was so good. People do not remember how good Ryan Howard was for 3 years. There was like Mark McGwire in his prime, dude.
Yeah,
team
was
was
Babe Ruth. Like, he was Babe Ruth. And like, when you had all those guys, and the crazy part about it was they were able to hold each other accountable. And I think that's going to be the key thing over these long seasons. And that's going to be ultimately, I guess, my question with the Padres, with a guy who's so talented, but such a space cadet like Tatis Jr. He could be the best player in the sport. Like, literally, he's that talented. He could be the best player in the sport. But will he be? Like, the same thing kind of happened with Acuna post Freddie Freeman. Acuna, he's had injuries as well. Acuna could be the best player in the sport. But will he be?
Yeah. And by the way, good call on loving Carlos Ruiz. You're right, Scott and
Yes.
PA.
Shoot. Yes.
Carlos Ruiz was the shit. No
Yeah.
hitter by Roy Halladay in 2000. Dude, that Philly run
That
should have
run,
been
yeah.
4 years long as opposed to the 2 that it was, but that Philly run was a lot of fun. But I'd be remiss not to bring this up. We talked about it a lot yesterday. We're going to talk about it again here because I'm still having really interesting conversations with people on Twitter who seemingly just don't really get it. And it's very interesting to me. And maybe I don't get it, but I did live this life. I've been in a lot of these CBA meetings. I've seen what these conversations really are all about. I don't know what to say other than a lot of fans are really harping on market size and the ownership's net worth. Now, I also harp on their net worth, but it's just to make a point. It's a blanket point. Those of you that think by me mentioning an owner's net worth, and I want to also specify majority owner. Every team is owned by like 20 to 40 people, and all of their money is not disclosed in the pot. I want to make that abundantly clear. It's really just the majority owner that's disclosed in the pot. So those of you saying, well, the Reds only have an owner that has $500 million. That's less money than Shohei Ohtani's going to make. Yeah, the Reds are owned by over 20 people. Like, that's just one guy. And then the market size thing. I'm not sitting here saying the city of Cleveland is the same size market as LA and New York. No shit. But Cleveland is definitely a major market. It's not a small market. Duluth, Minnesota is a small market. This is a major metropolitan city with over 3 million people in it. So my point is, it's not about market size and necessarily about the full net worth. I'm not telling them to take their $4 billion and spend all of it on their players. I'm telling them to spend more than $82 million on their entire payroll because their TV deal, which, by the way, doesn't even include their TV deal, pays them $103 million just to exist. Then there are other funds that gets them around $250 million just to exist. You know what I'd like them to do? Spend some of that on payroll, but they're not. And they're getting a lot of their fans, for some reason, to do a lot of heavy lifting for them because the 1994 trolls are out. These Grady players, bro. Fuck.
I can't do it. Now, and this is where we have to strip down the conversation, I think, to try to make it make sense. Here's the truth of the matter, and none of this is opinion just yet. Mm-hmm. There's a certain amount of revenues coming into all the teams. Also, the larger market teams are paying the smaller market teams as well. So that's, again, not an opinion.
That's
what
fact.
It comes down to it, right? When it comes down to it, as a fan, you have to make a decision. And this is the same decision you should make at your job or any other job, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Walmart, whether it's UPS, whether it's anything, Google, whatever business you want to say, there's a certain amount of revenue coming in, period, not comma, period. Who do you think should get that revenue? Now, if you believe that the players that you watch shouldn't be the ones getting the money, and instead the owner that you don't care anything about should get all the money, then I need to understand your value system. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is we talk about those same people on Twitter. If you go and look at their tweets long enough, if they're active, you'll see a tweet where they complain about Jeff Bezos. You'll see a tweet where they complain about Elon Musk. You'll see a tweet where they complain about big business or what they have to do to make a living in their job. And many times the reason they have to do those things is the same situation as baseball. You just are trying to mix the numbers because you have a certain value judgment that you've made in your head ahead of time that's missing the point. Mm-hmm. So $5 million is a lot of money. I want $5 million. Cody, you want $5 million. And so everybody watching wants $5 million. I understand that. But if the person paying you $5 million has $500 billion and your job value on the true open market would pay you $15 million, you're underpaid. And what I mean by that is if you're making $50,000 in your job right now, but you sign some sort of contract, you have a non-compete, whatever it may be, where you don't actually have true freedom of movement, and you know that you should be paid $150,000 for that $50,000 job, you know you're underpaid. But what we have decided arbitrarily, we've picked a number in our heads individually where that person makes enough so they shouldn't complain. But I guarantee you, anybody saying that makes the 50,000 now, if they're making 150, you know what they want to make once they got the 150?
250. Yeah.
Right. And then once they got the 250, they're going to want the 500. This is a fundamental situation where you have to decide if there's going to be money in pro sports. And we agree that there's money. And everybody that goes is paying for tickets and parking. Like I already mentioned, I got my tickets set to my phone because this is now getting close now that the spring training games came out. If you buy your individual tickets, they set them to your phone. I already got them in my Apple Wallet. Can't wait. I'm already excited about this regular season, right? But I prepaid my ticket. That's $45. I bought both. I've already bought my tickets and all that, right? That money's going somewhere. So do you want the billionaires to keep it all? Or do you want the players that you're paying to see to get it? And to me, there's but one answer. And I don't understand any other.
Yeah. And the thing about it that's really strange is it's like you think we're arguing that the players should get all of the money. No. The owners are going to make a ton of money. Keep in mind, they just signed a short-term television deal, and Major League Baseball wants to own one like massive television deal, and they will get that in 3 years. You better believe that's going to need to be factored into this upcoming CBA, but I don't see a revenue sharing plan that actually makes sense. And also, just on a practicality matter, you and I were talking about it before we started this show. Where is there proof that a salary cap somehow increases spending for certain teams? And those of you who say, well, there's no cap without a floor. Where have you guys seen an owner mentioning a floor anywhere? Because that has not been mentioned. Well, we've mentioned it. Players have mentioned it. We all think there should be a salary floor. But I see a lot of people on Twitter trying to yell at me. He's like, well, then the floor will be this. I'm like, where the fuck are you people getting these numbers? No one opens their books. We have no idea how much they make, and they cry poor. But I know what money they're making in revenue shares, and it ain't going to salary. And I understand there are other operating costs, but are we pretending that owning a Major League Baseball team is not a money-making proposition? If it wasn't a money-making proposition, no one would fucking own a baseball team.
Of course. Like, this is ridiculous. And then here's the other part where we have to be honest. And I'm not against dissension. What I'm saying is, I want to make it clear, is I don't understand the dissension. I've yet to have somebody dissent that made sense. So just so we're clear, let's compare it to the biggest sport in America now, the NFL. I want everybody to understand what the difference is between the cap and the floor, and then tell me, like I'm a 5-year-old, explain to me like I'm 5, how baseball does this. So the cap for 2025 is going to go up, was $279.2 million per NFL team. You know what the floor was? You had to spend 90. You had to spend 90%. So there's only a 10% gap in the NFL between the team that spends the least and the team that spends the most. 10% maximum. So if you're going to put in this cap in baseball, like, because you got to have a floor, right? So you mean to tell me that the Pirates and even the Baltimore, which is a newer spender, and the Marlins and Cleveland and Kansas City and Arizona and all these teams now, Minnesota, Vegas/Oakland, they're all going to spend 90% of the cap? Because that's what they do in the NFL. So I'm sorry, if you believe that they're actually going to put in a floor that's similar to the other sports, I got a bridge I can sell you. Because they're not going to do that. They're not going to spend it. So that would mean, hypothetically, let's just make the numbers easy. If they made the cap $100 million, I'm to believe that if the Yankees and the Dodgers and everybody spends 100, I'm just making up numbers, that the Pirates are going to spend 90? Get the hell out of here. Just get out of here. They're not going to do it.
I don't see a world. And I don't know why anyone else sees this world. And also the argument, well, it'll make players more money in the long run. No, it will not. You made the example, because I will admit there is a problem with Major League Baseball's current situation. And I freely admit this, and it's what I talked about with Tony Clark. I don't think the right players are being cared about when it comes to these CBAs. Yes, like any other organization, they're caring too much about the top 1%ers that are definitely getting a massive pay increase compared to the rest of them. And there is no Major League Baseball middle class at the moment. That's a problem. I agree. That's a problem. It needs to be addressed. But the cap isn't the reason it needs to be addressed. And far as I'm concerned, it's the floor is the reason that needs to be addressed. But also keep in mind in recent CBAs and the gutting of the minor league systems, like the way it's kind of structured, now those grinder players that would be in the big leagues for like 5-6 years, they're no longer in there for 5 or 6 years because now the Kike Hernandezes of the world are going to be far and few in between. Guys that can sign like a 1-year deal. It's going to be young guys that go up and exhaust their taxi squad years and hit arbitration a couple of times until they have to retire. And that's how it's going to work. And you're only to see these guys making this amount of money. Does this need to be addressed? In my opinion, yes. How does it get addressed? I do not know that. I am not an accountant and I'm not the head of the CBA. If either want to hire me to do it, I will learn and I will figure it out. But I can't stress this enough. There are problems. But if you think the problem is players getting money, I don't know what to tell you other than you're rooting for the wrong rich people, guys.
You absolutely are. And you just have to make it a labor argument. The other part is, and this is the part I find fascinating, those that are for the cap that talk about the middle class part. I'm not talking about you as an ex-player. I really appreciate your perspective because I would have no full idea about that. Like I've read about it. I've heard about the guys eating tuna out the can and things like that. But you've lived that life. And I greatly appreciate that part of it. But no one cares about it in the other sports. What I mean is when they hear about an NBA player getting a 10-day contract, no one cares. Look at that guy getting the opportunity. That's how they look at it. It's just funny. And that guy might come in, I know a guy, grew up with me. His name was Ron Rollerson. He's dealt with a lot of issues with diabetes. He unfortunately lost a leg, but he was a 7-footer, played at Temple University, and had a couple 10 days in the NBA with the Sixers and a couple other teams where he hopped around briefly for maybe 2 years. He might be on teams for maybe 30 days, 3 10-day contracts. So literally the cup of coffee. No one cares about that. NFL has no middle class. The NFL, the way it works is your top players get basically 87% of the cap I saw, and then the rookie contracts and everybody else on the minimum fills out the rest of the roster. And you just churn, and you're on to the next, and you're on to the next, and you're on to the next. And that no one's bothered by that. NFL's more popular than ever. But when you hear about it with baseball, all of a sudden there's this clutching the pearls. Oh, those poor players. Why? I don't trust the motive of people who are pro-cap who pretend they love the players. I don't trust that's the real reason they're saying that. And I want to know the real reason they suddenly care about the middle-class baseball player when they damn sure don't care about the middle-class player in any other game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, dude. It's a really weird spot I'm finding a lot of fans in because what I'm learning is there's a lot of baseball fans that really don't like baseball players, and that is just really, really weird to me. And those of you that are just firmly on the side of the owners, maybe Google it. There's roughly 150 years of precedent not to trust the owners. I just Google, look up the first Major League Baseball commissioner. Just look up that, and we'll start there. Look up Mr. Comiskey and why the 1919 Black Sox decided to sell out for money because they weren't getting paid. There is a side to this. So you're not. We'll get into it. Oh my God. But let's go ahead and switch it up and let's just fun it up and do something that has nothing to do with sports. Let's go over. He's not here today, but let's go over to Shane's quick hitters, and I will play the role of Shane. I feel confident in it because I have a sweet beard myself. So we'll just keep it very, very simple with these questions, man. I just wrote them down because I just want to see what you have to say about them. What is something you, Tyrone Johnson, would bring back that is no longer popular anymore?
Something that's no longer popular anymore. All right. So there was this soda called Surge.
I loved Surge. Surge was the shit.
I loved Surge. There was one time where I used to work at a concert venue when I was in high school, and I worked the parking lots. And for like Ozfest and Jimmy Buffett and certain shows, we have to get there really early. And I remember in one day, because it was like a super, like literally a sun up to sundown situation. Because the way it would work with concerts, a white show like Jimmy Buffett, please just indulge me for a moment. That's an early arriving crowd. That's pre-party. And then a black show like Mary J. Blige, for example, that's an after party situation. So we would adjust, our schedule would be adjusted based on the kind of party that it would be. So there was one time where Mary J. Blige, for example, was doing a show. Usher was the opening act at that point. People were still in the parking lot when Usher's on stage. Like totally different type of situation. Meanwhile, Jimmy Buffett's not on till 8 p.m. We're open the lots at 7 a.m. So very different situation. 14 cans of Surge that day got me through that weekend. For that 14 cans in a day of Surge. I used to love Surge, and if I could bring that back, boy, would I be happy.
Mine is, I just had it in my head, and somehow because you brought up Surge, it just somehow escaped my mind. I had a really good one too. Oh, it'll come back to me. I promise you it'll come back to me because I really, really had one. Ah, shit. Oh, damn, I should have written it down. That's on me. All right, we'll go with this one. Best holiday.
Okay. Best holiday to me. I want to say Christmas, but I like to include everybody. And not everybody celebrates Christmas. I have my Jewish brothers and sisters out there. I have my Muslim brothers and sisters out there. So I'm going to go with Thanksgiving because I think that all of us probably should take a moment and be thankful a little bit more often. And I'm as guilty of this as anybody. I'll be complaining tomorrow. And I'll be like, well, yeah, but you had an awesome day yesterday. You're home with Cody. You're home with Craig. You're having a great day. So I think Thanksgiving, because it's the one holiday in America, at least, that everybody celebrates.
I love it. I'm actually with you. I love Thanksgiving. I've never been quiet about my love of Thanksgiving. I'm going to follow this up with a similar question. What's the worst holiday? And I'll admit, I'm going to cheat on mine a little bit. So I'll start.
Yeah.
I think the worst holiday is anyone who celebrates a birthday month. I hate you with all of my fucking heart. I haven't really celebrated my birthday in like the last 6 years. I just kind of gave up on it. First, it was my ex-wife that wouldn't let me celebrate my birthday, and then as time just gone forward, I'm like, you know what? I fuck my birthday. I got shit to do.
I was reading about her. Not a lot of people had nice things to say online. But anyway, I'll move on.
Interesting.
I'm just saying.
I haven't Googled it in a while.
Well, it just happened to come up. I looked it up the last time before I came on the first time. I was like, what happened? Oh, yeah, no nice words. I also don't like people, unless you had cancer or something like that, wishing yourself happy birthday is really out for me. Here's what I will say, though. Working in the business I've worked, because I worked in radio for the last 25 years, certain holidays you don't get to celebrate. But certain ones you do get to celebrate. So for me, kind of President's Day. And I have nothing against it. Just passed. I've never been off for President's Day. So, how good of is it a holiday if I'm never off for it? I've been off Labor Days. I've been off Memorial Days. I might not have got, the full long weekend, but I get the day. 4th of July I always get. Christmas I always get. Thanksgiving I always get. So I have to then go to that next tier. President's Day is a nothing holiday for me.
Well, I mean, it used to be a nothing holiday, but now the orange one thinks it's his birthday now. So, it's... Now it's even worse.
So that's my least favorite. That's my least favorite one. And then him, I don't even like to talk politics, but can we just have some common sense? Can we just act normal? Just a normal mammal, once in a blue moon. And we don't get a lot of that.
No, we can't do that, Tyrone. We can't do that. I remembered what I want to bring back, by the way. Yeah. I absolutely remember. McDonald's. Now, it's not that I want McDonald's to come back. It's already back. McDonald's has not gone anywhere. What I want McDonald's to do is bring back all of their characters because they created a rogues gallery of characters that are badass. Now, I know you're thinking that I'm talking about the Grimace and Hamburglar and all these characters.
Yeah, well, who are you talking about? The Hamburglar.
You know who I really want back? No. Back in the 80s, there was a man called Mac Tonight. He was a late-night TV show host, and he was a man in a suit that just had a crescent moon as a head. He was weird, creepy, and off-putting, and I fucking loved him. Bring back Mac the Night.
I mean, I barely remember. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Baby.
I mean, that wouldn't be so bad. I also, because I don't eat McDonald's that often, but when I want it. Bring back supersized fries, please.
I do miss supersized fries.
And I don't want to talk bad about the dead, but I'm about to. That dude was a piece of crap. Rest in peace, that Morgan Spurlock guy. You know why he got unhealthy? The real reason? No, there's a real reason.
What was
He's
the
no
real
longer
reason?
with us.
I know
Yes.
that.
Yeah. He was a horrible alcoholic. He
Oh,
made
that'll
the
do it.
movie because his wife was on him about his drinking. So he made the movie so that he could explain all his health problems were McDonald's fault and not a fifth or more of whiskey every single day. He died from alcoholism. And he blamed McDonald's, and literally Supersized Fry went away because that guy got so sick in that Supersized Me movie, when in actuality, the McDonald's didn't make him sick at all, and no one would eat McDonald's every meal 7 days a week. He was just a terrible alcoholic, and he took Supersized Fry away from me and you to hide his alcoholism. Eventually, post-movie, his wife found out he was back to drinking heavy. She ended up unfortunately leaving him, and he passed away. But that guy, that was all a lie. All of it was a lie.
Jesus, dude, that bothers me because you know how much I loved as a 12-year-old to say supersize me? It made me feel like I was an adult.
Of course it did. Of course it did. And you know you're not supposed to eat it all the time. But there was one time when I used to run a lot, I would run 14 miles because I was training for a marathon. I'm like, you know what? If I want a supersized fry, I burnt more than enough calories to have it. Nope. If I wanted it, I would have to order a large and a small. That's homeless.
I haven't had McDonald's in, and this is true, 2 years, and I'll tell you why. It's not because I didn't love McDonald's.
Yeah,
I had to pay off a bet, and the bet was I had to eat in one sitting 75 chicken McNuggets, and I don't know what to tell you other than I got it done. But when I say the amount of sodium that was in my bloodstream, I was shivering for like 3 days. It made me horrifically sick. I have not stopped by, looked at. When I see McDonald's, I look the other way still to this day because I just remember those fucking cold chills that the McNuggets gave me.
Oh my God, I don't blame you. I'd go another 3 years, 4 years, 10 years.
I might. I fucking might. You
right.
brought this story to my attention, Tyrone, and I think it's actually kind of an important story, and I'm a little like perturbed by it a tick, dude. We've been seeing an uptick on access to players and players' wives and families due to the advent of social media, which is really one of the worst things about social media. But then you get social media and you also add in the excessive access to sports gambling that we have. And I don't know if you know this about the United States, filled with a lot of dumb people who truly don't know what gambling is and like to give away their money. And when Russ or any other player doesn't hit a certain parlay or prop bet that they don't like, people get death threats. And that happened last night with Russell Westbrook's wife. And she posted it. And dude, I have a question for you that's really simple. Are we going to do something about this only when something really terrible happens? Because I hate being reactive in nature. I think we need to act now. And I mean, every sport needs to do some sort of action now to curtail this, because these things are happening more frequently, and it's only a matter of time before someone legitimately gets hurt.
Yeah, I think it has to be. I think you have to attack it two ways. We'll get to the gambling one in just a second because that was a bit more complex. First things first, we need to stop laughing when a streaker jumps on the field and stuff like that. Like at Super Bowl, the guy jumps on, because what if that guy had a weapon? And what if that guy did me harm? What we end up doing is, ha, 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 that's a streaker. Ha, 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 that guy threw popcorn. Like literally it happened in Philadelphia. And I called the guy on the radio. People got mad at me. He threw a box of popcorn on him as he was exiting the court. And somebody, it's popcorn. I was like, no, he should be banned from every major sporting event in Philadelphia. No Eagles games, no Phillies games, no Flyers games, and no Sixers games, because what if there wasn't popcorn in that? And I know there's security and things like that, but first things first, to avoid what I think is inevitable, if that guy's at that game and Russ doesn't get that parlay, that guy may have tried to get the Russ. And we have to stop being so, as fans, permissive and, and we need I think sometimes judgment is bad. I think we need to be more judgmental of idiots and assholes who try to jump on the field and things like that and go too far, because that's the first prong, and that's simple. The one that's harder is, like, unless you remove prop bets, then, and that you could do, I don't know how you stop someone from being so mad that they threaten. And the person, for the record, if you guys don't read it, TMZ has it. It's all over social media, the threats. We literally, like, even though we curse here, I'd be uncomfortable using all the language that guy used towards Russell Westbrook's wife. He threatened both Russ and his wife. He wished
Yeah.
death upon both Russ and his wife. What the hell did his wife do? Because he didn't score 10 points in a game. The guy's averaged like 15, 5, and 6 as a 37-year-old. He's having like a really good season for a 37-year-old on a really bad team. But he threatened his wife because a parlay didn't hit. And unless we take away prop bets, I don't know what we do about it.
And by the way, it's also one of those things, we talk about NIL, that, the toothpaste is out of the tube. It's the same thing with gambling. And it's not just gambling. It's the fact that every league is in league with all the gambling companies. Companies that weren't gambling companies are now gambling companies. And now you're watching other companies get away with being gambling companies because they don't call themselves gambling companies. And now you got guys like Giannis doing Kalshi commercials, which I can't stress enough. That's the grossest company that I think has ever existed on planet Earth. And there's some gross ass companies.
Yeah. And Russ also is like now also an investor in the company. So like there's rumors out there that he stoked up the trade rumors, bet that he wouldn't get traded and cashed in. That's a rumor. We won't know. I mean, only people that know end up being the IRS, but it's a nasty thing. And when it gets to the death threats, that's where it goes too far. And I'm not a big person, despite what people think probably on this show, because I'm not for the owners getting all the money in baseball. And I'm not pro cap, but I'm also, I'm not a woe is me when it comes to really famous and rich athletes. But what I am saying is they play a sport as a job. It's their vocation. They just happen to get paid a lot of money to do it. You shouldn't be allowed to threaten their death and their wives. I mean, their parents. What if that guy actually killed both of them? You just think those kids should be orphans because they had a bad basketball game? That's what literally would happen. And to answer your question, yes, what will probably have to happen is someone will either have to be maimed, a Monica Seles style, like stabbed, something like that, or worse before we take it seriously. Because I know, I'm not saying in this chat for this show, but I know once this gets to YouTube for everybody that's not watching it live, there'll be somebody going, you're a bunch of pussies. You're a bunch of this and that. They get paid enough money. Oh, that guy wasn't going to really do anything, because that's what people think. But the guy said it in print. He went and found his wife's email and emailed her. And emailed her to threaten both Russell Westbrook and his wife's life over a basketball game. And I love sports as much or more than anybody on the planet, but I don't want anybody to die over it. Like,
I really don't.
And it's because of this gambling. And I know we talk about gambling addicts or the people that maybe get in trouble for it or lose their mortgage or something. I think if you're gambling and it gets you so mad that you're threatening death, you have a gambling problem.
Big time. Like it's just, dude, it's just wild to me that the access to these people, the fact that he was able to get her email, and the fact that she feels the recourse she needs to post it out there, which I totally support. It's just, it's ugly, and I really worry that it's only going to get worse before it gets better. And ultimately, no one will do anything until it really gets to the worst possible case scenario.
Yeah, and the other part that I think that we have to recognize is, and we don't, and I think it has to do with, you mentioned the orange fellow, and I'm not even going to blame him totally for this, but when life gets really challenging, and life is really challenging for a lot of people out here, there's the loneliness epidemic that's out there where they talk about males really more, because women go to the doctors and women ask for help, and most times men don't go to the doctor, whether that's physically for their heart, lungs, etc., or mentally. We're dealing with this loneliness epidemic. I think when life gets really hard, people look to sports for that distraction. And hopefully we're entertaining people for this hour and change today, and we're distracting them from the heaviness that happens in their world. But when they put that much stock in it, I think that's usually because the other parts of their lives are broken. And I think our society, to a certain degree at this time, is a bit broken. And I think this also leads to this, because if that guy was living a super happy life otherwise, I don't think he wants Russell Westbrook to die. But you're talking about a guy who's probably lonely, probably doesn't have a lot of friends, probably is real fucked up in his head over a whole bunch of other things that have nothing to do with sports. He goes to sports, then he has a gambling problem, and now he's threatening death. And I think that this is where that we should care more about one another, like as humans, come into play. Because when we don't, this ends up, in my opinion, being one of the byproducts.
Completely agree. And let's get away from the serious shit and talk about something fun real quick. Bro, Is it a foregone conclusion that OKC is just going to win another title? Because there may be some contenders out there, and yeah, dude, I might be all in on this Detroit team, dude. I'm digging some Detroit right now, especially after 2 years ago and seeing this meteoric rise from being a team that lost 30 in a row 2 years ago to now this. Cade Cunningham is a legitimate star. Detroit basketball back on the map, bro. What do you think?
This is crazy. And this is the crazy thing about sports, and it's unpredictable. And when people get this sense of hopelessness, it's always wrong when it comes to sports. So when Kevin Durant went to Golden State, that's it. It's over. Nobody will ever win again. Now, don't get me wrong. They won 2 titles. But we've seen in the NBA, we've seen a million teams win 2 titles. In NBA history, that's not that big a deal. But everyone was doom and gloom. And then you have the Thunder. They win a championship, and they have all those draft picks. And it's, oh, my God, those guys are going to win 8 championships because as they have to get rid of certain players, they have all these draft picks. They'll just get more, and it's all over. And they won 1 title. Meanwhile, fast forward to February this was June. People were saying this. June. Fast forward to the next February, they don't even have the best record in the NBA. The Detroit Pistons do. Every time the Spurs play them, the Spurs treat them like it's their bitch. They might be the 3rd best team. So in June, they were never going to lose again. They're a dynasty. Oh, my God, I can't believe this. Oh, Sam Presti's the greatest ever. What is going on? We're never going to – why even bother watching the league? And you heard all of that in June. By February, they're arguably not the 1st best team or the 2nd best team. They're arguably, without doing anything, by the way, the 3rd best team in an instant. Nothing is forever in sports. This is why you watch it, because you don't actually know what's going to happen. I love this story because of just how sure everybody – it wasn't in ink. It wasn't in pencil. It was in stone. OKC, 8 of the next 10 championships. SGA is going to have more titles than Jordan. Who's going to beat that team? Well, one team in the East has a better record, and the other team in the West might not have a better record, but they kick their ass every single time. I love it. I love it. You can hear the excitement and the joy coming from me. This is the greatest.
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, if you give me, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and Michelle will be, I hope she doesn't see this because on Monday she's going to fucking bludgeon me over the head with this because I am a Laker fan and I've always hated the fucking San Antonio Spurs. But if you give me a Spurs Detroit finals this year, fuck, I'm in. I'm so in. Cade versus Wemby, give it to me. Give it to me now.
Right. And that's the thing. So the NBA over tanking problem, blah, blah, blah. Here's why it's not a tanking problem per se. And just bear with me for just one moment.
Let's hear it.
How'd they get Cade? By being really bad. How'd they get Wemby? By being really bad. And I understand you don't want the tanking. You don't want it to happen this way. But the best way to win is to be bad. And look how fast your fortunes can change, to your point. 2 years ago, they're arguably the worst team in the history of the sport. They get a new coach. They get the star player to develop a little bit. And he came out after the game yesterday against the Knicks after the win and said he's the best American player. You know what? Look around. He might be the best American-born player in the world right now. Because SGA's Canadian. You know where Luka's from. You know Jokic. And look at their fortunes. Look how fast it changed. So I understand, there's this tanking problem, blah, 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 blah. But you're going to tell me, whoever you're a fan of out there in the chat, everybody out there audience, if you're not an OKC, Spurs, or Detroit fan, tell me you don't want one of these next stars coming up. Tell me you don't want one of those next stars.
Yes.
Yeah, you say top 3 are all West. Yeah, I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if I buy that.
I don't know if I buy it either.
Real. Detroit basketball is real.
I want to say I understand what the odds say, but that's just the odds, dude. I think Vegas is heavily undervaluing the East because it's the East. And by the way, I do think the East should be undervalued compared to the West. But all it takes is one team out of the East, and I'm looking squarely at Detroit right now.
When the Cavs beat the Warriors, the West was better. That didn't matter. A lot of the years when Jordan Bulls were winning, the West was better. It didn't matter because the best team was Michael Jordan's team. And you're looking at Cade Cunningham right now. And I should, you know what? I shouldn't say this. They're barely ever on national TV. So you have to league pass to see a lot of their games. But if you watch Cade Cunningham play, Tell me you're just 100% sure all these teams in the West are just going to beat them. They defend. They play really well. So they haven't had their second best player, who was an all-star during. They're 3-0 against the Knicks. He hasn't played in any of them. Their second best player hasn't played in any of the games against the Knicks so far this year. It's a 7-game series. Like, I hear it. And people are worried about Denver and there's all these good teams. But are they really? Like, the Lakers are the 5 seed right now. This is tremendous.
Dude, bro, I'm a diehard Laker fan, but I'm also realistic. I don't trust the Lakers getting past the second round. I'm not positive I trust them getting out of the first round. They just don't play fucking defense.
Don't play defense.
So unless they're going to score 200 points a game, every game for the 2-month playoff I'm going to call it that 2-month playoff season because it's
that's what it is.
That's what it is. Dude, then the Lakers are going to be one and done, and that sucks. And I hope the Lakers can get themselves a defender someday. Let's move it over to one other thing because the biggest controversy in sports right now. It's the 4-letter network giving a showcase to women. Holy shit! Why is everyone losing their minds over this? Let's just be practical real quick. ESPN announces Women's Sports Sundays. A lot of collectively sports people lose their minds, specifically dudes. But I'm a little confused on what we think we're losing. Because if you were a huge fan of Sunday Night Baseball, I was too. Well, Sunday Night Baseball isn't dead. It just went over to NBC. And by the way, I feel like the people that are mad about Women's Sports Sundays, they fit in a Venn diagram with the same guys that just love them some old-fashioned Bob Costas. Congratulations! Bob Costas will be there. Not only do you get baseball on Sunday nights, but you get old white dudes calling it as well. Bro, what are you mad about? You should be thrilled. As for this, it's cheap for the ESPN because they already had them on Sundays. They're just moving them to prime time. And by the way, the W is fucking awesome. What is wrong with everyone?
Well, you know what it is. And see, I don't understand it. And I don't agree. I work with a person who's very upset about this.
Craig was upset about it. I love Craig, but I didn't understand this at all.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand it. It's so here's the thing I'm going to tell people. If you don't want to watch the WNBA, and if you don't want to watch the Women's Soccer League, right? Don't watch it. No one said that on Sunday nights you now have to mandatorily watch Women's Sports Sundays. It's not mandatory.
It's not Clockwork Orange and you're holding my fucking eyeballs to make sure I'm watching it on Sundays. Like, I'll watch Sunday Night Baseball.
You just don't watch it. It's free programming for them, literally. So, like, even if you hate women's sports, right, they decided, and you could agree or disagree, that they were spending too much for baseball. That is what ESPN, Disney decided. If you disagree with that decision, fine, but that's how we got here originally. Therefore, once they opt out, Major League Baseball then goes to the highest bidder. If ESPN did offer a bid at a lesser amount because they thought it was too expensive, NBC outbid them, and there were others. Apple, I know, bid. I think Amazon tried to get in on it as well. So there were some streaming factors trying to get in on that. And anyway, NBC Peacock wins out. Okay, so go watch the baseball there if you so choose. Well, you know that every Sunday in the summertime, and it's really, we're talking about 9 Sundays. That's what we're really talking about at the end of the day. 9 Sundays. All right. You agree there's going to be 8 p.m. all 9 of those Sundays, unless the world's going to end. They had to put something on. Why does it bother you that it's women's sports that you do not have to watch? Why does it bother you? If you want to watch the baseball, go to NBC Peacock and watch the games. If you don't want to watch it, go watch WWE, go watch Cooking Food Network, go watch whatever the hell you want. But for those of you that might have daughters, for those of you who might have nieces, for those of you that might have wives or mothers or grandmother or another woman in sport in your life, maybe they want to watch sports. And now, rather than having to go jump through hoops or do anything, they can turn on ESPN every Sunday. You can sit down with your daughter and watch women's sports. I don't understand. And to me, that's not woke. That is a programming choice to really not even really counter program the baseball. I don't know what the Venn diagram is you brought up of the big baseball fan and a huge women's sports fan, but I'm sure it's not it's probably a pretty diverse circle. So go
Probably.
over there and watch it if you want to watch it. But if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. I don't understand the anger about it.
Yeah, it's a bit strange, but that being said, I'm actually kind of excited about it. Not that I don't know how much I'm going to watch it or not watch it. I'll likely have on Sunday Night Baseball. But my big complaint over the WNBA these last couple of years, especially with the influx of Caitlin Clark and all that, is I never really knew when the games were on. And that is actually something that really bothered the living shit out of me because I wanted to watch the W and it made it very difficult to find it. Now, at least on Sundays, I know where it's going to be. So that's at least something for me in the positive realm. I don't know how much of the W I'm going to watch this year, but at least I'll know how to find it.
That, and now here's the funny part now. They could end up with a bit of a lockout. Yes,
they can.
This could end up being a massive opportunity for women's soccer. Because if there is no W, they're going to fill that programming then with the soccer. And I know, say what you want about blah, 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 women's soccer. Women's soccer, to me, is primed to be far more popular in America than men's, domestically at least. Maybe not internationally, domestically. We know more of the girls' names than the guys' names. And like Trinity Rodman is more popular than any single American male soccer player, domestically.
I can see that. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of how many American soccer players I really know. Like outside of like three names, I really don't know very. Yeah, Pulisic, great, but that's
right.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. He doesn't play domestically. He's over there in the Premier League. He doesn't play domestically. So if we talk about domestically, we know more of the women than we do of the men. So to me, I just don't see the outrage, and it's a big opportunity. I hope the WNBA's owners recognize this and get a deal done and don't have a work stoppage, because being on ESPN Sunday nights is gigantic for their sport. And that's how you grow the game. And that's how, when you grow the game, even if you're selfish, that's how you make more money. Get a deal done. Get a deal.
Please get a deal done. Although Unrivaled is kind of showing that you better get a deal done because this might actually work. Listen, dude, it's been a full show so far. So why don't we just go ahead and reflect? All right. Very, very simple. I'll go with my reflection because it was going to be my shiggle, but I want to just bring it up. And why not? Because I believe you and I did talk about it earlier in the week. The Mick Cronin crash out was really, really interesting. But don't worry, because he kind of apologized. He didn't, but let me explain. Mick Cronin was in front of the press today, and before the question was really asked, he kind of cut off the reporters. Oh, no. I already apologized to the player. You know, I thought he went out and tried to take him out, and I didn't have the replay in front of me. And so I kicked him out. I have apologized to him since then. Okay, one, that's not the only motherfucker you need to apologize to. And two, your weird ass crash out where you made your player's technical foul turn into like a tech 2 to send him back into the clubhouse, and you go and ape shit like that. If I have on my list the schools that I want to go to and play for, UCLA, and as a former Bruin, by the way, I played at UCLA. I got a banner up at that stadium, at Jackie Robinson Stadium right now. UCLA's name is crossed off the fucking list after that fucking crash out that you just had, because I just learned you don't have your players back. And if this is the apology you're giving and you don't issue an apology to the fucking reporter that you gaslit for not raising his voice at you and you just flipping out, dude, only thing I can come up with is you are trying to get fired so you can get your payout. And I hope it happens, because I don't want to live like this anymore.
You know, that's a good one. Real fast, I found out, little birdie told me that basically every coach in Division I tapes their practice so then they can use film and then you can break down things for your players. I found out the one that doesn't, because he doesn't want what he does at practice to be filmed, because apparently he's a bit of a bully. And that's your college's coach. Yeah, he doesn't tape his practices for that reason.
I hate Mick Cronin. I hate him. The guy's riding. The dude's riding the shit out of a wave because he got the one Final Four. This is UCLA, goddammit. You should be in the Final Four every year. It's UCLA. John Wooden, for fuck's sake.
You should be there every year. In the NIL world, you should be there everywhere. My reflection.
UCLA.
Yes, you're right. My reflection real fast has to do with, now I'm going to mention Alyssa Liu, I know everybody may not watch women's figure skating, but there's a reason I bring this up. Parents, don't ruin youth sports. And also, parents, cultivate your kids. Don't stifle your kids. So this young lady, they're talking about the whole comeback. For people who don't know, she's American. She's the first American to win a gold medal at the Olympics in figure skating in 22 years. The significant part, though, cool hair, was she quit the sport for 2 years, and and then she came back, and they went to her coach, and they asked her coach. The coach said she used to be really good at doing what she was told, and that included her coach, quote unquote, her other coach, starving her at times, telling her what music she could go to. Not enough food, like not literally starving to her, but too hungry to maybe be a top flight athlete. Outfits and all those kind of things. So then you peel back the layers because she's made up with them. You know who the person was who was controlling all those things? Her father. Now the father's in the stands where he belongs. She comes back to the sport, and she told him she had 3 rules when she came back. It's a collaboration on music. It's a collaboration on what we do on the ice. And 3, no one's going to starve me. The coach, her actual coach and choreographer both say, yes, of course. She comes back. She wins nationals. She wins the world title, and she wins the Olympics. Now, obviously, she's an elite athlete, and that's something. But parents out there who are coaching, whether it's stage parents, whether it's coaching parents when it comes to sports, this is what should happen. The kid should come to you and say, Dad or Mom, I want to do this. And your job is then to hold them accountable that if they say they're going to practice, they go to practice. But your job is not to starve them. Your job is not to make them hate it. And your job is definitely not to, she was 13 years old, and there's an interview with her saying out loud that she already has a job. Sports should not be your kid's job when they're 13. So for me, my reflection, because I have a father who's old school and tough, but every sport I played was because I went to him and said, Dad, I want to do it. And then my dad's only rule was once you start a season, you finish that season. And if you don't want to play the next year, you're allowed to. Do not ruin what could possibly be a gold medalist, a great doctor, a great whatever it could be with your shit. And that's the thing that made me so happy about her story. That was a 20-year-old girl who literally walked away from the Olympic level sporting event because she was tired of the shit, and she comes back doing it her own way and wins a gold medal. All of us, yes, by having fun, and that's the part that's special right there, and that's what matters, because it's really hard. You can tell them, Cody, to become a professional, but sports absolutely can enrich your life. They have enriched my life. Playing in high school, it enriched my life. You're better off doing it if they want to do it, and that to me is so important.
I can't stress this enough how factually true that is, and how many parents I've seen, especially with young kids, making the mistake of not letting their kids have fun. It even happened. I think my parents even had a rude awakening at a very young age. I was a part of this high-end club baseball team when I was like 9, 10, 11. And I remember when I was 10, I had to go to a game, and I wanted to quit playing baseball. And I think that was something that kind of caught my parents off guard. I hated playing on this team. I hated how much I was traveling at the time. Like I just wanted to play with my friends. And they never pushed me ever again. I was able to push myself, and they were incredibly supportive. It was great. But I see it all too often. It's like watching dance moms on a baseball field or a soccer field or a basketball court. It's just it's really tricky. And I'll go as far as me going all the way up to the big leagues. When I was playing good is when I was having fun playing baseball. When I was playing bad, dude, it's when I was doing my job.
There it is. And I think that just gets forgotten. And at least you made it. And I know we've talked about how you wish you were still playing, or you wish you were the Hall of Fame, but you got to the show. You got to the show. And I just think but you're one of the rare ones. Not everybody's going to make it to the show. And that's okay. But this is even worse, because this was a person who was talented enough to be a gold medalist who fell out of love solely because of external pressures put upon by others. Not herself. She loved skating. She loved doing it. They said, she said out loud, I love suffering. It makes me feel alive. And yet that person with that mentality was so uncomfortable that she quit.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, by the way, the best in the world. So guys, Take care of your kids, and maybe they'll be the best in the world as well. This has been a blast of a show, as always. Tyrone, I can't stress enough how much I love doing this with you. I hope we do it again and next week, one of these days. I'm sure we'll pick out a day and get it done. Michelle Beadle back with us on Monday live at noon here on Beadle and Decker. And, of course, we're going into the weekend. Enjoy yourselves a weekend. And, Tyrone, where can everybody find you? Obviously, the show, the Carton show, the Craig Carton show over there on Sports
Grid. Yes, Sports Grid and YouTube and the podcast. And also you can follow me on social media platforms at Ty Johnson News. And I can't wait to see everybody again soon.
Dude, you're the man. Enjoy your weekend. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe right here on YouTube. And check us out on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And, of course, watch out for clips on social media at Beadle and Decker. And, as always, R.I.P. Estelle Getty.